Freedom is something that seems very important to everyone I know right now. But what is freedom? Is it something that is an absolute right and must be defended at all cost, or is it more complicated than that? A few of you decided to use your freedom of speech to let me know what you thought about my last video on the subject of freedom. So let's have another look. My name is Ian Currey and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. Hello. Sometimes when I make a video it feels like everyone has something to say. You should have said this, or, well, I like the trains but had no idea what you were going on about. Other times, a healthy debate starts and my email inbox fills up. A few weeks ago, I made a video called Freedom and Control. I'm sure you can find it if you want to see what I said. The definition of freedom I used was freedom, the power or right to act or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. It seems a few people took issue with me commenting on that definition. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the issue was, but I've been thinking about freedom a good bit lately, as of course have a lot of people. Some said that freedom with restraint isn't freedom anymore, and that I needed to avoid allowing restrictions, especially to freedom, to be seen as a good thing. I'm not sure that's what I said, but I certainly said, oh, now that sounds like fun, doesn't it? The thinking part I enjoy every day, but that other part, acting without hindrance or restraint, that sounds like it could get us into all sorts of trouble. As I work on the model railway from time to time, there are a number of details that, while seemingly unimportant, really make a big difference. One of those little details is fencing. It's fairly straightforward to add, but I usually leave it to when I'm nearly finished with everything else so I don't break it, knock it over, and I don't mess it up. In the meantime, the little people will just have to be careful to stay away from the railway lines. Fences are interesting things. While they're sometimes there to protect people and keep them safe from trains, for instance, you could also say that they restrict where you can go and limit freedom to roam around and do whatever you like. In many countries, including England where I grew up, there are laws that are sometimes referred to as freedom to roam laws. And these mean you can have some access to land even if it's privately owned. Of course, that comes with restrictions. I notice, for example, that dogs have to be on a lead that is no more than 2 meters long. That's 6 feet in old money. So while access to land you don't own seems like an interesting right, your freedom to do exactly what you like, when and where you like, isn't quite there, is it? I mean, you can't just go and camp out in the farmer's field and let your dog run all over the place just because you think it has a nice view and that you should have the right to roam freely. While thinking about this video, I asked a few friends about freedom and what about freedom they particularly thought was important. With so many comments last time, I thought it would be better to ask them before I made another video this time. The answers were more or less what I expected though. But when I dug into their answers just a little bit deeper, very quickly opinions differed wildly. The big two were almost always the same with everyone: freedom of speech and freedom of religion. But if I asked for more, or if I asked what the boundaries should be, that's when things got very interesting. Starting with freedom of speech. So you want to be able to say whatever you like. Well, what if someone uses hate speech or profanity and just stands there saying all sorts of nasty things. Should people be free to do that? And the answer to that was very hesitant. Then there was freedom of religion. And I agree that we need to be able to worship God, or not, in whatever way we believe we should. But when I asked my friends if they would be okay if a mosque got built on the corner of their street, then generally the views were not quite so favourable. Well, other than my Muslim friends who understood immediately why I was asking that cheeky question and laughed. Another big freedom that kept coming up was the freedom to love whoever I want to. Now, laws have changed over the decades, and legislating something as abstract as love seems fraught with complications. For me, logically, the laws seem to be needed more as protections, fences if you like, to prevent interference in something that is none of anyone else's business. Meddling in other people's business is not something that should be allowed, right? But then if you start making laws that are about that, they need to be enforced, and then you have a rather interesting tension between freedom and the law, don't you? Well, that's what elections are for. We choose a government and politicians that represent what we want, and then we have laws that are right, just, and protecting. Also, in a way, you could say that many laws, the laws that we vote for, if you like, are self-inflicted limits on freedom. We voluntarily restrict freedom so that life is palatable to everyone. Well, the majority anyway. Now, of course, some people just want to be free to do as they please and all that good stuff without any of the responsibilities or restrictions of normal society. Getting that balance right is much harder than it seems at first glance, isn't it? If we take only the freedom of speech freedom, that was often on the top of so many people's list. The idea that someone can say all kinds of nasty things to me and my family, or call my neighbours horrible names, isn't something that any of us really want, even if we somehow agree with freedom of speech being something that is held as so important. Defending freedom, and especially defending rights that are so intertwined with freedom, can get very complicated. You quickly find yourself defending something that you don't like one little bit. I may agree with your right to say whatever you like, but when you start saying those things, I don't like it at all. If you have too many fences or not enough fences, once freedom is abused, it will quickly justify all sorts of things that cause others not just a little frustration or distress, but in extreme cases, absolute freedom, or power perhaps, can end up causing abuse and physical harm. After all, if you have the freedom to do whatever you want to, then when you want to do bad things that hurt people without restraint, there isn't much they can do about it, now is there? Another way to say this is to ask the question, why does God allow that horrible suffering? Why doesn't He stop this or that from happening? Why is God allowing that person to do those terrible things to others? Can you see how freedom can be used so easily to justify so much that is unjust and cruel? Those kind of things can cause us to throw out the question, why doesn't God do something? Or perhaps, as I noted last time, why do the wicked get their way? The idea that God should step in and solve things every time something bad happens seems like a good idea at first. But once you stop and think about that, the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to say whatever you like, even bad things, and the freedom to do things that aren't right, or even that are evil, are, however hard it is, what makes us human beings. So much of the discussion I had about freedom ended up being about who should win when rights collide or freedoms clashed. You can't just do what you like if it interferes with me. Who wins? Who gets to exercise freedom? It seems often it's decided by who has the most power or who yells the loudest or something. Following the teachings of Jesus actually seems counterintuitive, but when Jesus found himself unraveling some of the closest of his friends that were having some of this thinking going on about who would be first, he said, "Whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else." I suppose being a servant is a little like helping your master to build fences he wants to build and then happily living with them in place. It turns out that freedom isn't nearly as simple as we thought it was. Let me know what you think. Until next time, goodbye.